Hi, and welcome to the School Health Educators Podcast, where we discuss health education and how to best teach health ed in the K 12 setting. Hi, and welcome to the School Health Educators Podcast. I'm your host, Lori Reichel, and this episode is focusing on personal ethics. In a past episode, an episode focused on professional ethics or things that can arise in the workplace or at work events for educational professionals, for if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator. So Aaron Coleman and I talked about some of those situations and what our thoughts were for what was best to do. Today's episode is going to focus on personal ethics, or things that we do in our personal lives that can actually impact our professional lives or our jobs. So Aaron Coleman, Aaron, thanks again for being back. So he's joining us again. And Aaron, would you like to say hi and tell us again a little bit about your background?
Sure. Hello, my name is Aaron Coleman. I am currently the Director of Arts and Athletics at a charter school in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. I'm going into my 14th year of teaching. I work with students and teachers that take health classes, physical education classes, theater, art, and dance. This is my second career, but all my careers or all the jobs I've had have all made me who I am today, which is someone who cares about health and cares about helping educators be better for their students.
Thank you for being here for another episode. And Aaron and I have actually presented on this topic at a national conference as well as a state conference. And what's really neat is we have different backgrounds, different perspectives. And we do this activity where people have to figure out the best answer, potentially best answer for a situation. Today, what we're going to do is go over some personal situations that deal with ethics and talk about what we perceive might be best. We're going to have three situations, and if you're able to watch this, please check out this episode on the School Health Educators YouTube channel because it's recorded as a video also. So you can see the situations as we're talking about them. Okay, so personal ethics again deals with the right and wrong within our personal life and whether or not what we do in our personal life would impact stuff in our educational position, in our jobs in the school setting. Aaron, do you want to take over and tell us about the first situation?
Absolutely. Jessica was hired as an educator at the local YMCA this past summer. The spring before she was hired, she attended a bachelorette party in Las Vegas, and some pictures were posted on her Facebook page. A peer at work, who Jessica friended, noted that he could tell from the pictures the party seemed pretty wild. Jessica forgot those pictures were on there. What should Jessica do? A, keep the pictures on there. She has the right to a personal life. B, put her Facebook settings as private. C, remove the pictures. Or D, close out her Facebook account. In reading over these, I think what's really important is B, put her Facebook settings as private. I feel that Jessica does have the right to have a personal life, and what she does in that personal life is her business. However, she's an educator and a leader within the community. So if you're going to leave something like that to public, you're giving, the opportunity for not only teachers, but some of your students to see what you're doing on the weekend. And some of the things that you do on the weekend can put into question some of the lessons you're teaching in health. And they might not be, but by keeping them out there, now you've opened up to having to justify what you're doing on the weekend, what you're consuming, where you are at your friends. There are a lot of questions that should come up, which should not be your focus. Your focus should be teaching the kids. So I think the first thing that she needs to do is to change the settings on her Facebook page and all social media. Lori, what are your thoughts?
Well, I want to ask you, do you have a Facebook page?
I do.
Okay, because I also have one, and I attempt not to put anything really that's personal, because I have a personal life, and that stays between me, myself, and I.
Mhm.
I want to make sure I respect the people in my life, and so for me, I make sure I only post things that I truly want anybody to see, even though I do have a private settings. Because I'm trying to think if we're connected on Facebook. Because I like what you said about putting the Facebook settings as private. Yet I get concerned that if somehow someone is working in a district where they live and they are friended with somebody else that works in the district who has kids that are potentially going to the school,
Mhm.
if the kids will have access. This is just me because I get a little more, not that I do anything that would be unethical or immoral or anything, yet I do have a right to a personal life, but with all of the technology, I get nervous about kids still getting access to something, even looking over someone's shoulder, taking a photo of something, and then using it against the teacher. That's me. I know a lot of people that agree with you. Private. I think I would remove the pictures.
Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying, and there are sometimes, if you should start working at a new district, you might bump into an old friend that you friended years ago, who hasn't thought about you, maybe hasn't even seen your page, and might go back and look at old pictures. I tend to do two things. Number one, I don't post anything that I think, where I'm seen in a position where that anyone could sort of say, well, I wouldn't think you as an educator because of that picture, or you're a leader. Why would you post that picture?
Mhm.
So that's the first thing. I make sure if I'm posting any pictures that they are presentable to whomever sees them, even though my Facebook page is private. But I also have two separate Facebook pages. And this is something I
Ah,
tell to my students and I tell to my colleagues. I have one page that is for my friends, for my family. That is my personal life. I have another page that's up for former students I want to keep in touch with maybe, some former colleagues. That page is completely different than my personal page. That page, I will put inspirational quotes. I might have some pictures with some former students at times when we won a championship for a basketball game or it was a school trip. But I like to keep them completely separate. I still have former students who right now they're grown-ups. They're educators just like me. They still do not have access to my personal page because to them, I'm still an educator and vice versa. And still my personal life, I feel needs to be separate from my professional life because when I come into work, I need to focus on, what I'm doing professionally.
okay, so that's pretty sneaky. You kind of like have another potential answer we can add on here of having more than one Facebook profile, if I say it like that.
Yes, and I think nowadays I see a lot more educators doing that for that reasons because
Ah.
they want to keep in touch with the kids. And if you think about, just exchanging numbers depending on how old the child is, and that could be seen
Yeah.
as very inappropriate, as opposed to having a Facebook page that is, meant for former students that also my administrator knows about, has
Mhm.
seen, understands why I'm doing it. So at any point, if a parent should have a question or wants to look into that, I'm more than happy to sit down, show them that page, show them with my administrator there because CYB, I'm covering my butt to make sure we're all on the same page. This is
Mhm.
a tool I utilize to keep in touch with students. Just like if we were to exchange, an email address, this is something where I could keep in touch with them and other students as well.
Yeah. And that's transparency. Telling other people this is the deal, this is who I am. Because I like that. I like that a lot. At this stage in my career, I have a lot of college students in which, again, I don't have a lot of personal stuff on the Facebook page. And I also have other pages that are related to like this podcast, so they can follow that. But I will say I am connected with former students from middle school and high school where I used to teach, but they're like in their 30s and 40s. So things have, but again, I don't have much personal information on there. I like that. I like that we didn't necessarily agree to this one too, Aaron.
Oh no, me too. Because I think there are just different ways of doing things, and that's why these conversations are so important. Because we're learning new ways, and there are certain when it comes to these scenarios. Sometimes there are multiple right answers, and that's a good thing as long as they're all discussed. And sometimes there are conflicting things. That's a great thing about ethics. It needs to be a topic that's constantly discussed as these new avenues are coming up.
And I'll do a little plug. If you ever want Aaron and myself to go to your school district or to go to a conference or something to lead a session like this, we would love to, because we see things differently where I think we're pretty ethical people, but we know how to engage people in these conversations. So again, I appreciate that you're here today, Aaron. And I'd like to continue on to the next situation where I believe we used your name for the situation.
Okay. Yes, we did.
Okay, and if it's okay, I'll read it.
Absolutely.
It's been a long week. Aaron and some of his coaching buddies are looking to have some adult beverages. They go to a local restaurant, sit at the bar, and notice some students from their school district that they teach or coach are also at the restaurant slash bar. What should Aaron do? A, stay at the bar slash restaurant. He has a right to get a buzz on, quote, buzz on. B, stay at the bar slash restaurant, yet not drink any alcohol. Instead, order some appetizers and water. C, invite the students and their families to join Aaron and his buddies at the bar. Or D, go to a different establishment in a different town. Okay, so Aaron, since your name is here, how would you answer? How would you handle the situation? You've had a long week and you're of legal age. You are entitled to have alcohol as long as you're not at risk, like you're not going to have a certain amount and then drive home or use other machinery. So how would you handle it?
How would I handle this? I mean, from the get-go, if if it's possible, I would have loved to have done answer D even before I went to that establishment. I would have loved to have picked the place where it's nowhere near my school, where I could go with my friends, have a couple of beverages safely and not be able to or not worry about what other people are thinking, looking at me or saying, "Hey, he's the educator, why is he doing that?" I would rather do that. This is one of the reasons I do not live anywhere near where I work. And so at the end of the day, I could go home. On the weekends, I could go home. I'm, probably not going to bump into any of my students or their parents. That makes me feel more comfortable. So I don't have to worry about situations like this. But if I had to choose, I would choose D. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Each person to each his own. But if someone wants to go out and have one beverage, or if someone chooses to have multiple beverages, they're not going to want to do that with other people looking at them, judging them, or maybe coming up and asking questions. If it's been a long week, I'm sure that they want to stay separated from what made it a long week, which would be their students. But I would choose D. How about yourself?
I like a personal life. Like that's why I don't put stuff on Facebook. I like having my personal life, and I'm very cognizant of how I might judge others so people can judge me. Not that I, again, do anything that's really newsworthy. Sorry, folks, if you're looking for any gossip, I'm relatively mellow. I have some cool stories, but I like being away from where I'm teaching. And because I work at the college level now, I'm going to say, I don't want to see what they're doing in some ways. Like I know what stuff is going on because we have statistics of behaviors and what the probability is, yet I would feel awkward seeing my college students working at the K through 12 setting. It was the same thing. It's like I don't want to see I don't need to see what they're getting involved in when I'm not at work. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I want to have a separation of my personal life and my professional life. I will say, even when I've done professional things like going to a like a retirement party when I was an administrator, I had to go to all these different gatherings for people. And sometimes some people that I supervised, some of the teachers, thought it was funny to send drinks over to where I was sitting. So you would see in front of me like a line of drinks, but they were all filled. Because when I went there, I chose to not have anything to drink because I was just like, you know what? No, I'm here for professional reasons. So that's just me. Does that answer the question?
It definitely does answer the question, and I appreciate your point of view because again, you have a plan before you go out. You have a
Yeah.
plan, whether it be a professional outing or a personal outing. You remember, I'm an educator, so I want to have a good time. In order for me to have a good time, I don't want to have to worry about these things. So let me come up with a plan right now, so I'm not in this situation. So your answer, avoids the situation altogether, which is good.
Now, when I've done this with college students, including grad students, some people will be like, they would say this to me. They'd say, oh, I wouldn't judge you if I saw something about what you would do. And I make the joke of, so if you saw me doing belly shots off of the bartender's belly button, you wouldn't look at me any differently. And they start cracking up. I'm like, I have never done that. I will never do that. But if you do see something, you might see me differently.
I was about to say, you bring up a good point because if you go out and if you decide to drink and there are 20 people there, and if you work with those 20 people or you teach those 20 people, two people might not look at you differently. 17 might not look at you differently, but the others might. You
Yeah.
never know. Everyone sees these situations differently, and a lot of people would do things differently if they were in your shoes.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to importance.
Yeah.
If you have a job, or if you're, at the education level, or if you're a leader, appearances do matter.
Yeah.
People's opinions of you do matter because we are educators. We are the ones that students look to learn from. So it's important that people see you in an ethical sense and still respect you that next day. If students do not respect you, they are not going to want to learn from you or listen to you. So it's really important to keep that in mind.
Thank you. And we have one more situation left, and my name is involved in that one. So would you mind reading that, Aaron?
Absolutely. Lori has been working as a new teacher in a local school district. One of her administrators often flirts with her and comments on how they should hang out together. What should Lori do? A, hang out with the administrator socially. Perhaps she will get some additional mentoring for getting tenure. B, say thank you, yet always refuse. C, get a fake engagement ring to infer she is in a committed relationship. Or D, talk about the situation with the mentor. What are your thoughts, Lori?
I need to admit that I've been very naive. Like I just like when I was younger, very naive. I wouldn't think that an administrator would flirt with me. I didn't think that somebody who's married would flirt with me. So it's surprising in which younger Lori would say thank you, but no thank you. Always refuse. Yet what I tell my students, my future teachers now is you can say thank you. The fake engagement ring, you don't need to do that. I don't think that's fair to have to do that. But I would go to a mentor and talk about the situation. And I'd also journal about my feelings. Because I do know somebody who was at a conference and their administrator wanted them to hang out with them, and it was not appropriate. I know you might be at an event and it's more of a social time because it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, yet things can get really murky if you choose to hang out with the administrators socially. That's just me. I have a low tolerance if I choose to drink alcohol at a professional thing or at a social thing. I have a low tolerance. But again, I had to learn, I think, some of the hard way of, thank you, but no thank you. And I learned to go talk with somebody else, including a mentor. How about you?
Well, first, I appreciate your choice. I like what you said, and also you're talking about how younger you as opposed to you now. So I think that's really important because I know a lot of people in this podcast are a lot younger than us and are going to see it, and they need to know that we've grown into where we are now. The answers that you and I have now come from experience. So younger me might have done something differently. But I would agree with that. I would agree with, thank you, but no thank you, but also speaking with the mentor about that. Um, as of right now, again, your main objective is to be the best teacher that you could be. In order to be the best teacher that you could be, you're going to need mentors. You're going to need advice from your administrators. All of that advice and mentoring can happen during school hours. There's no reason why any of these things need to happen at night, in a bar, in a restaurant with just the two of you. And if anyone says that to you, that's incorrect. They could happen during school hours. They could also happen with multiple other people there. So if this person really wants to help you out, hey, great, I'm going to invite so-and-so. They're a new teacher as well. You could help them out as well. It's really important to know that a lot of administrators and teachers, they have your best interest at heart. Some don't. And not saying that these people want to anything negative, but this is your professional life, and a relationship or the inference of something can affect your professional life. So again, I love what you said. I would talk to a mentor. There's nothing wrong with saying thanks, but no thanks. And it's really important, as you said, to journal everything, the time, the date, exactly what the person said. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe they're just being friendly. Still, journal everything. If they are just being friendly, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, you want to talk to me about this? Great. During lunch tomorrow, let's talk about in the cafeteria. Or right after school, a couple of teachers are going to be here. Can we talk about it in my classroom?
Yeah. And if you're a college student, like you're a grad student getting another degree, and you have, or an undergrad that's listening in here, and you have a professor like a Dr. Hansey reputation, because I used to use this situation in an undergraduate course, and I used the person's name as Dr. Hansey, who was talking with a student and suggesting that they meet together to talk about their future, the student's future, like at a restaurant. And if you're a young person listening in, or a grad student, whoever listening in, they're not supposed to be doing that. As an instructor, as a professor, I have no right to imply anything to a student about a personal relationship, having alcohol with you. And these are my values. This is, and I tell them, if we're going to work on a project together, there's not going to be any alcohol involved. There's no physicalness that's going to happen. We're going to be ethical here, and you have the right to feel safe with professors, with supervisors, etc.
I agree with you, and I think we could say the same for if you switch the position around. So I'm currently fortunate enough, I oversee a team of teachers. I would never want to do anything to make any of them feel uncomfortable or that they can't trust or be around me. So besides our one-on-one meetings, which are in the school during school hours, I'm not spending one-on-one time with those people outside of work. Now, if we get toward the end of the year, if we get toward Christmas, let's say I want to take out my team. I will take out my team as a team. It is all of us together. Everyone is there. I usually have an outside person there as well, because again, CYB, cover my butt. Or cover your butt. I don't want anyone to even get an inkling or a thought that, oh, Aaron is trying to do this or Aaron inferred this. No, if If we're all going out as a team, that means everyone is going. If for some reason at the last minute, everyone gets sick except for me and one other person, I reschedule.
Yep.
I reschedule. I'd rather be safe than sorry, because it's not just about, losing your job. It's losing the respect that these individuals have for you. It's going
Yeah.
back to, as we've always discussed, it's about, your goal, and what we're doing is we're being educators, and so I would say the best thing to do is to keep things separate.
Totally agree with you. And if we end this episode with why we should act ethically, I put things on a PowerPoint slide so those of you watching could see. But some reasons for why people should act ethically is because overall it's the right thing to do for yourself and society. And it brings meaning and purpose to it. It provides a standard to live by. It helps you have a healthier and emotionally satisfying life. Others will appreciate it, and usually they'll respect you if you're ethical. And I have this quote, the source is Rabinowitz from 2010, and it reads, it makes programs, so it's this professional viewpoint, it makes programs more effective, cements standing in the community, allows one to occupy moral high ground when arguing merits programs, allows one to exercise moral leadership, and assures one acts legally and professionally. Do you have any thoughts on any of these or anything to add, Aaron?
I think the one thing I would like to add is I think it's best to keep your professional and personal life separate. At the end of the day, you'd rather be safe than sorry. Obviously, at work, you are spending a large amount of time with these people, and they're getting to know you and you're getting to know them. I would say be selective. You're going to make friends with people that you work with. There's nothing wrong with that. But be selective on who you let into your circle. There's no need to tell everybody about what you're doing every weekend. There's no need to befriend everybody on Facebook. These are your colleagues first, and not all of them are going to have your best interests at heart. So be selective on who you let into your personal life. Everyone is going to, after work, you have opportunities to meet people, hang out with people. Those don't necessarily have to be your coworkers. I do have friends at my job, colleagues who have become friends. But again, that's a small circle. It took a while for us to get to that because there has to be a level of trust there. Because whatever you do in your personal life, you don't need to necessarily come back to what you're doing in your professional life. There's nothing wrong with being that. It doesn't mean that you're antisocial. That doesn't mean that you can't be supportive and fun with your coworkers. But again, when you come into work, it's really important that you are ethically being the best educator that you can. And if you feel that there's other things outside of work that people might call into question, well, the best thing to do is not let them see that portion of your life. And there's nothing wrong with that.
If we even end with a statement of being ethical helps you sleep better at night.
Yes, it definitely does.
Yep, it actually, and part of life, I mean, you do have to figure out situations. Sometimes we do make mistakes, personally, professionally, own it, correct it, learn from it for sure. Do the best thing you possibly can for yourself. But also, I mean, we work for students and we want to do what's best for our students for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Aaron, thank you again for being on an episode. You've done 2 episodes and I truly appreciate it. I will make sure that there's information about how to contact Aaron in today's description, or you can connect with me at schoolhealtheducators@gmail.com and I'll forward you Aaron's information. You can talk to us about going on the road and visiting your school district or your university or something, and
we'd love to meet you. We would love to meet all of you and talk as much as possible.
Yeah, and have people process. We can switch up situations and stuff. Sometimes it's nice to have outside people process, because coming from an administrator, like I know as an administrator, teachers didn't always want to hear it from me, so you got to get it out. Sometimes it's a fresh voice that they'll pay more attention to. Yeah, Aaron, do you have any last words you'd like to say to our listeners for today?
I guess, believe in yourself. Remember why you became an educator. Remember why you want to inspire and educate kids, and just, stay on that path. And remember, ethics have to do with everything that you are doing. So as long as you keep to those true and positive ethics, you're going to do a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And some reminders, please follow this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Number 2, check out the schoolhealtheducators.org website. There's a lot of resources for people related to school health education. So many resources there. And I'd like to end on this note to remind you that you make a difference. You matter. Stay well, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.